Thank you so much for coming to our study session. We are convened as the Provo City School District Board of Education tonight. We're meeting at 280 West 949 North on Tuesday, September 12th, and it is 5:03 p.m. We're going to start our study session tonight with a roll call, and I'll begin with Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Jennifer Partridge, Vice President.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Lisa Boyce, Board Member.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Max Joyner, Student Member.
Will Widener, Student Member.
Gina Hales, Board Member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Derek Anderson, Business Administrator.
Wendy Dow, Superintendent.
Okay, welcome to everyone else that's here with us. Thank you for your patience as you were waiting for us tonight. We appreciate that you're here. I'm going to entertain a motion to convene the study session.
I move we convene the study session.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hall. We are now in study session. In the interest of time, we're going to skip item number 4, the board handbook training, and we're going to go ahead and move to item number 5, the out-of-state student travel. Sorry to surprise you.
No, you're great. I'm ready. No, I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready.
So we'll go ahead and give that time to Wendy.
I'm going to mix it up a bit, though. We're going to start with Centennial Middle School. So you will notice in board docs that you have the proposal for their summer trip to Washington, D.C., and I have Principal Brooke Ann Taylor here to answer any questions that you have. This is to go to Washington, D.C. It's pretty exciting. Awesome. So do you have any questions? I don't know how you traditionally have done this, so I'm learning.
We've done it just like this.
Oh, perfect. What questions do you have?
This is same as last year, right? Any major changes from last year?
So I'm sure there are questions and things you notice about the cost, and we're willing to work on that, but I would like to share some of the reasoning. And number one is there was a noticeable disparity between students. So you have the students who, like, one student showed up with $500 cash, and then the students who have nothing other than what we provide for them as part of the cost of the trip. And so there were students who would skip meals or eat much less to save money for either treats or a souvenir. And those students, though, like, who were buying souvenirs, it was like a $2 coin, collector's coin. It wasn't like these extravagant things. And so you have the students who, like, can have whatever they want, and then the students who literally get nothing unless we provide for them. And so part of my hope is to give them a little bit more per meal to help even that out. And there were things like, could they theoretically afford a meal? Yes, but they couldn't buy a drink, they couldn't buy sides, they didn't have money for snacks or treats. And I mean, who of us goes on vacation and never buys a cold drink when it's 90 degrees outside, or a candy bar or popcorn or something at the cemetery? So that's part of that consideration is, you know, they might not order the drink and they might buy the $2 coin, but for some of our students it's the only opportunity they have for that souvenir and to get it. And so a big reason for that is just that equality piece. We've also talked to some Dixon teachers and found that every year at least one teacher pays out of pocket for multiple items. And it's not something that they advertise or make a big deal of, and it's not something that's required, but it is happening pretty regularly. Because they're paying for things like a treat, they'll buy everybody an ice cream or something, and which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when it's 90 degrees and you're walking around Arlington, that can kind of make or break a day for a 13-year-old. And then, like the tram at Arlington, we would like to just make that a part of our cost. That's another thing that teachers have paid out of pocket for, is they'll buy the tram ticket for every student in their group. And then another difference between us and Dixon is we prefer to buy the unlimited Metro Pass so we can go any time of day. They actually purchase a limited one, and they can only travel on the Metro certain hours of the day. The one that's a little bit more expensive allows us to be able to go wherever we need to go at whatever time of day we need to get there. Like last year, some of our groups found out pretty last minute they were able to meet with Representative Curtis at the U.S. Capitol building, but we didn't know for sure that was happening. And so that's the kind of stuff where if you're limited to when you can ride the Metro, you might not get to meet Representative Curtis, whereas if we can go whenever we want, we get to do some of those cool things. So there are ways that we can make it a little cheaper, but even if we could add even as little as $35 to $50 and give kids an extra $5 a day towards meals or things. We would love to be able to do that just to make it a little bit more admittedly fun and accessible and enjoyable for the kids.
So we did approve the trip for Dixon Middle School for $1,800. This proposal is a $2,000 proposal. So I don't know if you want to make it the same for both schools or if you have other questions. I just wanted to remind you of that.
I have a question about that. Are you worried that that extra $200 cost is going to discourage the kids who could have afforded it to not come at all?
Not really. I mean, we've presented it to parents in parent meetings already and got no pushback about it. We also hope that this year we can offer more fundraising because we're doing the approval sooner, that we made that mistake last year, and so we didn't have a lot of fundraising options. So we're hoping this year, and our hope is we only charge $1,800 and we can fundraise enough to pay for things like tram and extra money for food, but we're hoping to get approval higher in case things go up. And then the other thing is kind of a buffer in case food prices just keep rising, because we've all seen our grocery bills and they're getting kind of high. So we're a little bit just cautious of what are those costs going to look like. We're also going to be there in a pretty big election time, and so who knows what that's going to do to travel costs and things like that as well.
Maybe not for this trip, but I would maybe next year. I think there's going to be some issues if there's even a $200 difference between the schools. Right now, I think we're okay, but if there's a way that we could, I'm less talking to you than to, I don't know who I'm talking to.
You're talking to me.
But I think it would be good to have, even if you don't use the full money, that that's a disparity, and it's, I don't know, we're going to get emails. So, not that I can't handle an email, but I just think it might be good for us to figure all of that out.
Any other questions for Principal Taylor? Okay.
Provo High School Choir to Washington, D.C.
Hey.
Hey.
Do you guys want me to talk about the trip, or do you have questions, or?
We have your paperwork, and everyone should have reviewed it already. So are there any questions about the Provo High School choir trip?
It says it's the annual trip, but you go to different places, or have you been to these?
We go on a trip every year.
Okay, but
it's
not-
a different place everywhere.
Which is why we see it. It's not
Right.
right.
We
Okay.
could charter a plane and fill it with our middle high school. Everybody go to DC on the same. Would that be cheaper? Like,
Talk to Breeze or Allegiant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Weisner? No? Okay. Thank you.
See, we made it. We tried to make it intimidating. We didn't even succeed at that. Seaview High School Competition Cheer Squad, February, USA Nationals.
Hi, I'm Coach Zoe Hale, I'm head coach of the cheer program.
Okay. Questions, I guess?
I'm questioning the need to do this because Utah High School Activity Association already has state championships. Now they have state championships. Why go to private companies? It doesn't really seem like there's a need.
So in the cheerleading world, even in collegiate league, nationals is traditionally the end goal. So BYU, UVU travel to NCAA nationals in Daytona every year. And Tim Hugh has a tradition of attending USA Nationals since my mother attended with Tim Hugh High School as a cheerleader. But additionally, we're not the only school in the valley. So it's common for Nebo School District, Alpine School District, Canyon School District. Their teams are still traveling to nationals even though they have sanctioned cheerleading. And additionally, they're traveling, many of them are traveling to Florida, which is further and more expensive. So I'm still sticking to the closer and cheaper option. But within cheerleading, nationals is like the thing. And I worry at the end of the day, if I lose nationals, I will also lose athletes.
Would you still participate in the Utah State
Oh yes,
competition?
yeah, and that's our main focus is state but it ends in January and then nationals is 3 weeks later. So, and we're excited to compete in those. We're eager for those ones. So.
So you have, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, two. No, you're
2
good.
competition days, and then travel days, and then 2 days at Disneyland.
Yes, so it falls over President's Day weekend this year. So we would travel out Thursday morning. We would practice at a facility either at the convention center or I have a local contact who coaches at California Baptist University, who's offered to open her gym for us, which would also be an opportunity for the girls to interact with a collegiate coach and see what it looks like to cheer in college. And especially on state, which a lot of our girls don't even look at. So I'm excited for that opportunity. Then we would compete Friday in show, and then if we qualified Friday, we would compete Saturday in show, and then compete game day Saturday evening. And then we attend Disney Sunday. There's no school Monday, so we would go in the morning and fly home.
So is that why, I was just wondering why there were 2, like, no, I don't know. I want them to have fun.
Yeah.
But that's why there's 2, because they don't have school, so they might as well
They don't have
extend
school
it.
Monday, so we'll fly home Monday evening and go to Disney in the morning and just to fill the time. But yes, because they don't have school that day.
Can I ask you a question as to when the bus is getting back to Timpview on Monday evening?
We flew back, if the flight doesn't get delayed, which was our problem last year.
It's okay, I'm not holding you accountable for delayed flights.
Yes, we got home at like midnight last year, and the girls were at school the next morning.
You knew exactly what I was going for.
Yeah,
I was afraid they were gonna sleep the next
I'm
day.
a stickler for attendance.
Oh,
Now,
good
I do
job.
have girls that parents excuse
Yeah,
them,
well, you
but
know.
I always tell them I expect to see you at 7:30. I'll be there teaching at 7:30, so come say hi in your sweats. Yeah, correct.
Just looking at the itinerary, I'm with Gina, I want them to have a good time. My concern is the cost of the trip is almost the same as another group that's going across the country.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if maybe that last day when they wouldn't even get a full day at Disneyland, if instead of paying that cost, 'cause that's definitely not cheap anymore, if there's something else that you guys could do to lower the cost for the girls.
So ultimately, we've decided to do Disneyland again because it is within walking distance. So any other activities I do, I would still have to charter a bus. And locally in California, our options are getting limited to like the beach, which I know is not usually an approved activity. Like shopping, swap meets, which are fun, but like again, added cost as well. Our focus is on competition, so I keep those days pretty light. So the 2 days at Disney are our days to celebrate and have fun. And it allows them also to kind of slow down a little bit, not overtax them in one day. But I understand. I just think that it actually would be a similar cost. I get discounted price tickets through our the company that we compete with. They give us really good prices, and a 2-day hopper ends up technically per day being cheaper. I know if you go 2 days, it's technically more, but I think the cost I would spend on a bus to go wherever else we are going, and the cost for that event would end up being the same as another day at Disney, if I did the math. And there's not a ton of other options. So.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Timpview High School dance company. It was originally approved, but now they're going together, so we changed the dates. So we're pulling that trip off, and this is a substitute. All right. Tell us about this, because this is very exciting.
Very cool. We're pretty excited.
They're very happy. Love it.
So I know we submitted 2 proposals, but they're the exact same.
Yes.
For promo and Timpview. So I guess any questions before we?
I just want to say I love the cooperation between the schools.
Thank you so much. This would be great.
On board docs, it says that Timpview is going to be gone from March 27th to 31st, whereas Provo's going to be gone March 6th to the 5th.
That was the old itinerary. Now that we're going together, the dates are the 6th, March 6th to 6th.
Okay.
Any more questions for Provo/Timpview? From anybody?
The only concern I see is the 3 days away from school. Are we worried about that at all? We did, I'm really sorry about that. Excuse me. So, talking with the travel agent, because my first go-to was, please not a red eye, because red eyes are just jet lag the next day, and it makes, by the time 4 o'clock hits, they're all just poofed and done. So I asked her to start finding flights that were after school. So anytime between like the 6 and 9 o'clock range of an evening flight, and there just wasn't really any option within the budget that we were going for. So at least on Provo's, I'm guessing in your board doc, on the agenda I scratched out. And we are now rolling with the red-eye flight, and we're gonna make it work. We're gonna pump up with happy and have a blast.
So that's only 2 days? So the 2 days says 2.
It says 2
That's
days.
the old Tempe one.
I'm on the computer.
Yeah.
So we'll
Okay.
miss just the Thursday, Friday. So we'll leave Wednesday night. Very early.
Everyone will be so cheerful and happy.
It's gonna be great.
Will be
Very
cheerful and
happy.
happy.
I know, right?
Wow. Thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay. Good luck with that red eye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll take good care of them, I promise.
Provo High School ballroom dance.
That's me.
Woohoo.
Hi, I'm Colin. Colin Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions on our proposal to Denver? We originally, I know, put like we were going to fly, but we're actually going to take a bus. We found out it's a lot more economic for us.
Nobody has any questions for ballroom?
No, but I've always wanted to go to Glenwood Springs, so I would love to report when you come back.
Done. Sure. Yeah, more than happy to.
Okay. All right. Anyone? Good. Okay, we're good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, we did
Wait,
the-
sorry, I do have a.
Oh, come back, come back.
Try and answer for ballroom?
Oh, it says amount to be paid by student or covered by group fundraising, $750. Total cost of trip per student is $1,500 if other funds are used. Is that because the school has funds they're planning to pay half for each student and then the students pay the other half?
Depends, I think, what he raises with the fundraising.
So it's just a different way of saying the same thing.
Yeah,
at the end.
yes, yes.
Okay, that's
So it could be up to 1,500. right?
Correct, he just doesn't know depending upon the fundraising for the land.
Okay.
The max fundraising, probably
Yeah, yeah.
Campview High School boys basketball.
I'm Izzy Engel, the boys basketball coach. Any questions about our trip?
Any questions?
No, but I was gonna ask you if your dad was going.
Yes.
He was wonderful.
Good. We're good?
Okay.
I think we have no questions.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the other one was dance and AP art, but that was the combined, so that replaced the dance company one, so I think we got it all.
All right. Okay, wonderful. We're moving on to item number 6, and we'll give the time to Derek to talk about our social media lawsuit.
So what you have before you is there's a class action lawsuit against Meta for the harm that their platform has caused to children, and the increase in which they're making the case that it increases the social and emotional needs of the students in our schools and by the districts to bear that cost. Joel, I've invited him to come explain more about this. So I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Would you like me to sit? Would you like me to stand there? What works best for you?
No matter where you go. I mean,
You're perfect.
Yeah.
Wherever.
We can
Oh,
have her
down
down
here,
here on the
down
camera.
there for your other camera.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Camera.
Okay.
My two handsome fellows. So this is something exciting. You guys signed up for the Juul lawsuit, right? Vaping lawsuit a couple years ago. Yeah, that worked well. We have some more news, good news for you on the Altria settlement as well that we could talk about later. But social media has many good things, and it's done many good things. But just like many drugs or cars or opioids, there's some real bad things. There's some real problems with it. And because they're a publicly traded company, they really have almost no ability to operate except to maximize everything. So the primary goal is to maximize screen time. That's it. They will once in a while kind of curb the edges if they have to, but it's simply to maximize screen time. And that has resulted in severe harms to many of our children over the last 10 years. And we see it increasing exponentially with a huge cost on school districts. For example, specifically, if you look at the number of counselors the school districts have had to hire, they've been increasing exponentially, the last 10 years. A new trend that's happening in a number of school districts is that kids want to become social media influencers. That's actually the number one career choice of teenagers in America right now. One way many school districts have found, teenagers found to become social media influencers is to record fights in their schools and post them and aggregate them. Because if you get enough views, the companies actually start paying you. TikTok and the other companies. And so that's become a real trend. It really favors the shocking content, the harmful content, and it's really spiraling down. There is absolutely freedom of speech. Let's make that clear. But this is where they cross the line. They take the most, for example, let's say a 7th grade boy posts that he hates all the teachers and the kids and he wants to shoot them all. And he posts that somewhere. Suppose I printed that out and I took it and went to the home of every single junior high student where he attended, and I put that flyer saying what he did on the door. I would be aiding and abetting and escalating this exponentially. But this is exactly what TikTok does. Some 7th grade boy will post something crazy, saying he's doing something harmful, and TikTok sees, oh wow, 10, 20, 30 kids in the junior high, viewed that, video all the way through. So what does their algorithm do? It immediately boosts it to the very top. Every single one of the junior high students practically sees it over the next 6 to 8 hours, and your attendance could go down 10, 20, 30% the next day. Now, many school districts call and talk to the social media companies and try and get them to do something. They never get a live person. They only get artificial intelligence, and they can report them. Things rarely don't happen. Can they do things differently? Absolutely they can. TikTok is a great example. In China, they have a very different approach to youth. They have a youth mode. Kids can't be on it at night. They're limited to 45 minutes a day. And also, anything that's harmful or abusive is taken down. Their TikTok is very similar to what PBS was in the 1980s when we're growing up. It's like how to do karate moves, how to do skateboard tricks, how to do homework. There's still plenty of content creators and good things happening there, but it's not the abusive and harmful stuff. So this lawsuit is a huge step in that direction, saying, hey, we're being impacted. Not only do we need to be compensated for this harm, we want you to make some fundamental changes. We want to be able to contact and reach out and have you take down, violent content especially, harmful content, contents resulting in us, enrollment decreasing or other problems like that. So that's really the nature of the lawsuit. There were so many cases being filed against social media. They aggregated all those cases in one single court in Oakland, California, a year ago. And we have a bunch of school.
That was Meta. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's hard to control artificial intelligence.
I heard you.
We have, I think about 15, 20 school districts that have now joined in Utah. We have about 800 school districts that have joined nationwide, including many of the largest ones. We had about 1,500 school districts, about 30% of the students in the United States joined the Juul lawsuit. I think we'll have twice as many join the social media lawsuit because there's extraordinary frustration. And to date, this has been a very bipartisan issue, which is kind of fun, sort of like youth vaping. Both sides of the aisle are very frustrated with where social media is going. They've asked repeatedly social media to make some changes. They really can't because they're a publicly traded company. They have to be required to do it. And that's the only way they can pull back on the reins. So you guys have been paying great attention. I've talked a lot. Do you have any questions?
I do. So which social media companies is this? Meta or only?
Superb question. Meta, which is TikTok, Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. TikTok, YouTube, which is also Google, and Snap. So those are the four right now.
Snap, as in
Snapchat.
Snapchat, yes.
Are there only, do they call themselves Snap? Is that what the name of the company?
It's just like a swing kind of.
It's what the cool
I would
kids
defer
call
to
it.
that.
We refer to it as.
Yeah.
It's the verb form. You
We
snap
established
someone.
this in the other meeting that I am not It's
all right,
and
Terry.
social media.
No, very helpful.
They do, the cool kids do call it Snap. I don't know anything, I was kidding.
No, in the student board meeting, it was established I was not cool.
Yeah, neither.
Specifically, what damage, like should our district go forward with this? Like, what are we seeing?
So it costs almost nothing to join. It probably takes about 5 to 10 hours of staff time. And if we fail, you don't pay anything. If we do succeed, it could be similar to Jewel, where, we get substantial resources, potentially several $100,000, potentially much more. And we require the company to make some changes. Some changes like when violent content is put up, that we can immediately challenge that content and have it taken down or paused before it goes viral and decreases the enrollment or further escalates violence in the school. A big problem also is bullying. And people ask, well, why is bullying a problem if it's happening outside the school? That's none of the school's business. Well, a kid who's bullied on social media will come into the school, and the students who are bullying them on social media are there in the school. And so then they will report it to the school, and the school has to get involved at that point. And we need a safe environment for learning, or learning just can't take place. So I guess those are two of the couple of reasons.
I can see it being a benefit for mental health in the long run.
Does the lawsuit address anything with mental health? I don't feel like that's been mentioned.
We are in the preliminary stages of the lawsuit right now. We're coming to you much earlier than we did in Jewel. The motion to dismiss should be decided in the next probably 2 to 3 months. And if we get past that, we're really excited because then we get discovery. And social media companies, to be blunt, are made for discovery, meaning they have lots and lots of data. And I think discovery on the social media companies could be as transformative in our country as when we got discovery on big tobacco 50 years ago. And we find out what they know, when they know, and what they're doing with what they know. I mean, for example, I think a lot of people are aware of the devious licks or the kind of goof up a bathroom, TikTok challenge. I mean, so you could say, TikTok, how much money did you make from advertising along with devious licks challenge in October 2022 in the 84604 zip code? They could actually produce that. And that would be very interesting, for us. What is it like, $20, $30? And this is, how much does TikTok make off the average teenager who uses it heavily over a year? For most accounts, it's about $50 to $100. That means if TikTok has to intervene with a human at any point on any content of an individual, they've lost money on that account. So they never want a human to intervene. The average employee at Facebook makes about $315,000 a year, and their goal is very much to create an artificial algorithm.
Wait, are you kidding me?
No. Facebook.
What the crap? I only get $5,000 for this job.
Facebook's goal, and why Wall Street likes them so much, is they have very few employees. They create an algorithm, they launch it, they build a data center in my school district in Alpine that runs things extremely quick. And then, they work very intensely with their advertisers. The advertiser can get a human. But everybody else, you can't get a human. It's all artificial intelligence.
Could you answer a question for me about the difference between this and the lawsuit that our state is going for? I know like the state of Utah is working
Yes.
on a lawsuit against social media, and how they, I guess, are the same or different, and if could we participate in both or not, or how would they conflict or not, or I'm just kind of curious, like what that would mean for that lawsuit. I don't know.
Until about 10, 15 years ago, the state would typically always do all of these lawsuits. With opioids, the damages were so tremendous to counties and local cities that they said, we need to file and fight for our damages as well. And that was a sea change because, especially when you aggregated all the cities and counties, they could bring a much stronger legal team. I mean, even our attorney general, when they're suing the social media companies, they've had to hire outside counsel and pay them on a contingency fee. And it's a little bit like war. A litigation, I want to say, is a perfect, administration of justice. The social media companies can bring and will spend, hundreds of millions of dollars on legal fees. When you bring, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 school districts together, that's when we can bring, an equal army that can really go up against them. So, for example, on the Jewel lawsuit, the school districts in Utah obtained about 3 times as much as the Attorney General was able to obtain, because we aggregated and we worked nationally. So we talked to the Attorney General's office. I think the Attorney General's even sent out an email recently to all school districts asking for help for their insights on it. But it was very significant that they did not say, hey, why don't you stop your lawsuits? Why don't you join? Also, the social media companies have so much resources. I mean, Facebook is easily worth about almost $1 trillion. You know, Google's worth several $1 trillion. TikTok's worth the government of China. The resources they bring to this are, I mean, for example, Philip Morris, the largest tobacco company in the country, is only worth $100 billion. So these are like, 50 to 100 times greater than big tobacco. So the resources necessary to push them into this are significant. I mean, our legal team will spend, probably several years and a substantial amount of money to hopefully get to a verdict or a settlement. Good question.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Wright? Okay. Thank you so much.
And did you want to discuss the Altria settlement?
Yep, that's the next one.
Item
Okay.
number 7, so
All right.
stick around.
This is just fun. I mean, some things are hard and complicated. This is not. So when we sued on the vaping, we sued Juul's board members, and Altria. Altria is the new fancy name for Philip Morris, because Philip Morris had purchased about 1/3 of Juul about 5 years ago for about $12 billion. So they were part of the conspiracy to addict a new generation of kids to nicotine. Juul settled in December of last year, and you guys approved that settlement, I believe, in March of this year. Altria is a meaner dog. There's no way to put it. They are a mean dog. They said, no, let's go to trial. So we did. San Francisco was the bellwether school district that bravely volunteered and went through discovery and deposition. So we went to 3 of the 4 weeks of trial. We had just rested our case, and that was Philip Morris's turn to now stand up and make their case. They threw up the white flag and they settled. So unlike the Juul settlement, this settlement is not confidential. They're a publicly traded company, and they announced it. So the gross settlement offer from Altria to Provo is about $109,000, $109,278. After fees and court-ordered fees, we expect that to be about 30% less, or 70% of that amount. I can't emphasize that this is on top of the Juul settlement, in addition to. And like I said, there's no confidentiality provisions. Altria is expected to pay it all if the district's approved, which looks likely in probably the second quarter of 2024. And if you approve it, the documents we sent you, then Derek will get a DocuSign here in the next few weeks, and he'll be able to just go in and DocuSign it and approve it, and it'll be done. And I'm sorry, I wrote here, I forgot to mention something. I'm a Timpview High School graduate of 1990, so I just wanted to mention you guys did a really good job. One of my favorite things at Timpview was the debate team. I think the ability to have to argue things that you don't agree with or take both sides of an argument is a skill that's being lost, and that social media is driving us to lose and not understand the other side. So if you ever get a chance, please support the debate teams.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any questions on the Altria settlement? Great, thank you very much for your time. Oh wait, you have a question?
No, I don't. I apologize.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much. Okay. Item number 8, we'll now hear from Derek Anderson and Keith Morey about the NORDA RDA/TIP.
Yes. So what you have before you is the city's bringing back the NORDA RDA or TIP and the updated information that they would like to present for us to consider. And I'd like to turn the title to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. We've talked a little bit about this previously, and we've got a lot of great NORDA folks here. And my understanding is that basically what we're doing is just kind of talking high level about this, and that ultimately this is going to be turned back to your financial committee, where we can talk about the details before it comes back to the board for final approval. But just conceptually, I think all of you are very well aware as Provo City is that one of the difficulties that we struggle with at Provo City is limited tax base. And so trying to find ways to make sure we capture and create more tax base within the city is a big priority to us. And not only that, but trying to create opportunities for great education and good high-paying jobs is outstanding. I don't know if you saw, but Brigham Young University was just rated in the Wall Street Journal this last week as one of the top 20 schools in the country for the type of education that they produce. I think a lot of that has to do with our school district, our relationships with the schools, and great partnerships with organizations like NORDA and Rocky Mountain University, and the capacity that we're trying to build within our community to create professional level jobs for people that will not only come get their education here in our communities, but hopefully stay here, work here, live here, pay taxes here, and spend money here, which benefits you, which benefits us. One of the difficulties that we've had, as you all know, is the changes in the local economy, or the global economy, and increasing costs in construction. And the NORDA site was a difficult site because of the old landfill. We've taken a piece of property that historically had virtually little value to you or to the city and turned that into a pretty phenomenal opportunity. But because of the costs that they've incurred with the excavation of the landfill, the rising construction costs, inflation, difficulty getting funding for projects, it's made the project very difficult. So one of the things they've come back to us and asked us to do is to consider expanding the project area, and whereas originally the TIF agreement that we had with them focused primarily on residential, to allow them to fold in the building that was just completed so that they can begin to capitalize that revenue stream immediately to allow them to build the next phase more quickly. Provo City was concerned about that. This is a little bit longer term deal than we normally do, and we can talk about that in depth with the financial committee, but we wanted the ability to make sure that they were committed to perform. So in the agreement that we just approved with them, there are penalties. So if the developer doesn't perform with the next phase of the commercial and the parking structure in the next 5 years, we'll claw back a portion of the available tax increment. If they don't perform on the residential that they've promised to build within 10 years, we'll claw back another portion to get us back basically to where the agreement was that you've already approved. So that's kind of high level what we're talking about, and we can get into details. There's a lot of representatives here from NORDA, and I appreciate their support. We're also going to talk to you a little bit about the Kafusi's Keikis program that you've been so great to support us on. But if you have any questions, we just kind of wanted to let you know we're finally at a position where we can talk to you about that, and we'll be working through the details with your financial committee.
Any questions from the board? Gina?
Remind me, do we already have something with NORDA?
Yes.
So this is
we
in
do.
addition to that, or it's extending it?
It's just to expand it a little
Okay.
bit. The original agreement only focused on the residential and for a shorter period of time, so they're asking for the window of time to be expanded and to include the existing building that just got completed, because one of the problems that we have is the agreement said that we couldn't start the tax increment flow until the residential started, because they don't know when that's going to start. I mean, it may be 5 years. We don't really know. That tax increment window won't be triggered by the county. And so by allowing us to include the building that just got completed, they can start that tax increment window now. They can capitalize that revenue stream to start their next phase, and that's really important.
And apparently it's okay to do like a retroactive type of, like,
Well,
retroactively include this
even though we
building,
created
like-
the district, we have not started we haven't triggered the tax increment flow with the county. And so because we haven't done that yet, we can go to the county now and say, now that we've all agreed, once we work through the details with you and with the county, then we can go to the county and say, we've restructured this deal, we need the tax increment window to start right now. No,
Would it
please.
retroactively trigger, or will it trigger now?
No, it'll trigger now.
Now,
The
okay.
building they just barely got their certificate of occupancy, so they couldn't have started it before now anyway.
Okay.
Is that agreement, that updated agreement, been adopted by the city and approved and everything is public knowledge?
It's all public. They're finalizing the documents at the next council meeting next week.
Okay.
There was a couple of final details and some language they wanted clarified. So the penalties that we talked about, we clarified those with them at their work session last week, and it'll be on their next agenda to finalize. So we wanted to kind of work all that through with them first before we brought it to you, because I didn't want the back and forth of you guys approving something that the city council has, and we're trying to get all that kind of cleared up so that we're all on the same page.
And the city's current agreement is also an expansion of their original, correct?
It is.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions, Jeff?
Please.
have other TIP projects that you're going to be bringing to us in the foreseeable future?
We don't, not currently. I mean, the two that we've been working on with you recently have been the Mix project, the River's Edge, and this one. And I don't have anything teed up that we're thinking about bringing to you. I'm going to make a presentation to the City Council next week that kind of talks about economic development in the city in general. I'm going to talk with them high level. One of the criticisms that we've gotten from the City Council is of the perception that maybe we're not as proactive about redevelopment opportunities in our community than we could be. And all that means is the City Council would like us to be thinking more strategically about areas in our community that need attention. If any of you are familiar with the old McAbee's restaurant, where that used to be, from my perspective, that's a retail center that's really tired, that needs some help. And we've had developers that have looked at that area before because owners won't sell or because there's too much work that needs to be done. It's too expensive to make a deal profitable. That may be one in the future that we want to evaluate. Does it make sense for us to do anything, or could we help or not? So I'm not saying that we're even prepared to do that, but that's the kind of thing that we'd like to be more proactive about thinking about, so that we can start to talk to you and say, this is an area that has declining property values that we think hurts your ability to continue to fund schools. Should we partner on this to make a difference in that area or not? But currently we don't have anything that we're prepared to talk about or thinking about.
Any more questions?
Thank you so much.
All right. And then on to item number 9, also with NORDA, and this is regarding Kafusi's Keikis. So Skylar and team.
I guess I'm team.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So Norm, right? Oh, sorry, you want me to go up here? That's right, I've got a camera up here. Thanks. So Norm Wright, President and CEO of Nordicom, and we have with us Dr. John Doherty, our founding dean, and Skylar Richards, who is our Vice President of Advancement and lots of other things. So basically, we kind of love this example, and I don't know that we need to go through the full presentation. I think you've got some information in front of you. But as we look at this, what we're a program-related investment. What that means is the NORDA Foundation came to us, or we went to them, and we said, look, we've got something we think you want to do that's going to make our community better. And what are we doing? Well, we're helping to educate a whole bunch of people who are going to be doctors and take care of people who are, having health problems, right? And save a few lives, that kind of thing. And so a program-related investment says, look, the primary principle or the primary purpose of this business cannot just be to make profit. It has to be to do community good. And so as part of that, usually someone who's making a program-related investment takes a lower return on their investment because that honors the principle of their foundation. But they do get a return on their investment. So with that in mind then, we're kind of constantly looking for opportunities to do good. And we're fortunate in that we have, I guess we could go through some of the details. You just heard that we've just got our certificate of occupancy for our new building, which is super exciting. And so we're in the process of just moving in there 100 miles an hour. Everybody's frustrated, including me, but we're getting there, so pleased about that.
This furniture is the last one to come in.
It is, but I've got a camp chair and a laptop, so we're good. Grand opening to which you'll all be invited. We hope to participate will be November 2 through 4, and then we have a couple of events that you'll specifically be invited to as well. And we just love this because, as you've seen, as you come into the south part of Provo, off the freeway, there we are, a medical school in Provo, which, I mean, quite frankly, I grew up in Orem, but to have a medical school in our valley and right there at the entrance of Provo, we think is pretty cool. If you don't mind slipping over here, then that's just kind of our mission and our vision. You'll notice about creating compassionate osteopathic physicians, and then inspiring a servant's heart towards caring for the poor and the needy. That's part of our vision. We want to take care of everybody, obviously, but there are sectors of our community that don't get as much care as other sectors. And that's part of what this partnership is all about, if we could flip that slide. Maybe let's go one more, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we do lots of things, including having slides that overlap, apparently. Sorry for that. But we do like to engage in our community, and We've got the day of service coming up on Thursday. We're out working with South Franklin quite a lot of the time and having a great experience there. And that's for us and it's for you, for our community, right? Because one of the things that we want to do is get into the hearts of these doctors, these soon-to-be doctors, that it really is about more than paying back their student loans and driving, you know, the nice car they've been waiting a long time to buy, but it really is about being out there in the community. If we can get in their mind, and we select people with this in mind too, students, but if we can get in their mind, then they're going to be kind of the types of physicians we're going to be proud of from Provo. So if we skip to the next one then, and straight into Kaufusi's Keikis. So, partnership, I think a lot of you know the word keiki, a Hawaiian word for child, or children in this case, right? And so this is a partnership with City of Provo, Mayor Kaufusi, of course, that's where we got the name from, but also the Provo School District. And one of the things I like about this is we take a resource in our community, Nordic College students and their experience. We team up with two great partners, and let's start with Provo City because you have the best interests of these students at heart. And I think many of you who are educators have seen students come to school who maybe have not received health care, or you've discovered something, right, with a child who hadn't been to see a doctor or so forth, and they get referred and we get those families some help. Well, and then we have the City of Provo, and why the City of Provo is so important is because as we do this, we're going to, and I'm going to be very careful how I say this, because this is a sensitive topic that we've worked through with the school district, I believe, around data collection. And when we say data collection, it's not the little Tausili Nu'u, someone kid, or you know, or Jorge, or Sam, or Sarah. It's not that their name is attached to the data. We're collecting confidential, aggregated data that can help us spot trends. And we may spot a trend that says, over here, look, we've got a greater case of overweight or obesity, and then we can start to, as a group, study why is that the case? And is there something, are there resources that the city can bring to bear? Are there resources that the school district can bring to bear? Do we pull in the United Way? And so that's why it becomes this kind of team effort. And so what we're doing then is we are using our Nordicom medical students and other healthcare students, and I want to emphasize that. We're talking BYU, we're talking UVU, we're talking Rocky Mountain University, we're talking Roseman. So lots of different people with lots of different skill sets coming together to kind of do these health screenings. And Dr. D, did you want to talk about those? Because I think we should, because he's done this program before and he's a real doctor. I'm a PhD in management, so.
I think you're doing a great job. So John Doherty, as President Wright said, I'm the Dean of the Medical School. I'm a recovering middle school teacher. Thank you for that. But the program this is not the first time I've worked in a program like this in other cities. We've done the same thing. We've had great amounts of success in collaboration with the school district. What kind of thing you alluded to, we found like food deserts that we didn't even realize were there. We were able to identify areas where there may be an opportunity for a playground because there wasn't one there. So that's kind of what the aggregate data is. And in addition to that, we will have an opt-in for the parents to choose to be part of the program. And then on top of that, we can have an opt-in on follow-up care. Some of the team here has heard me say several times, I usually find a Hot Wheel tire in an ear or an Attabeat up a nose. It's just going to happen. And so when we do that, the parents will be able to opt in to our healthcare team to help facilitate follow-up care. Our students speak, Skylar, over 52 different languages, probably more than that this year, but so we would have a time where they would set up and contact our small in-house clinic to speak to the parents in their native language so that we can help them engage the facilities in the broader community. Our students currently are working at the Volunteer Care Clinic in association with United Way at Mountain Lands. And I've already spoken to their leadership and they're very excited about, Clyde and Connie Stauffer, very excited about the opportunity to help facilitate follow-up health care for any items that we may find in the screening process. So there's more partners I'm sure that we're going to want to jump in. We're very excited about what the future may bring to that, and I'm hoping that we can help provide the school district with an opportunity that will help fill some of those blind spots that we may not even realize that are there. So, as Dr. Wright said, we'll have different allied health students accomplish different parts of an evaluation. I like to think, as a former recovering middle school teacher, I really like it because we expose the students to a whole bunch of different allied health programs, and then they get to see that maybe that's a pathway for them. Because as you know, if you've tried to make an appointment to get into a healthcare provider, it's starting to stretch out longer and longer and longer. So we need to be starting in the elementary schools, middle schools, to help them see a potential pathway that they could be a solution for our personal healthcare problems as time goes by and as they mature through the education process. So I don't think, what else do we have? Yeah, I think I covered all that just off the top of my head. Yep, there's the different type of screenings. Oh, so the individuals in our school, to be enrolled in our school, and for that matter, in any healthcare program, they have to have background checks, they have to have drug screens, and then we also train them on all of the HIPAA and FERPA confidentiality documents. And in addition, we have talked to the team, and any additional provost schools district specific trainings, we will make sure that our students accomplish as well before they engage with any of the institutions that we're going to be talking to. So we've talked collectively, and I believe the first target is going to be the Timpanogos Elementary School, date to be determined. We're targeting at this moment in time right after school is out. Again, it'll be an opt-in opportunity, and we're going to eventually, our plan is to pilot this first one. Like I said, I've done this a bunch of times. Herding cats is not even close to describing it, but we have a few little tricks up our sleeve to get them through efficiently and make sure that both the students and our medical students and the allied health students get an excellent experience, and that we provide a value service. That's it. Any questions? Yes?
So will all of the opportunities be these after-school things, or is there going to be set up during the school day?
Well, our very first time we have agreed that we will do is after school. If it turns out, and we're going to continually quality improvement process, if it turns out that there may be a more opportune time, we are 100% open to it. One of the weird things about our curricular model, geeking out a little bit, is we have no scheduled classes and we have no big classrooms. All of my content is pre-recorded, so my students don't have to be in class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock. So I can shoosh them out wherever I need them as fits best with that particular school. So if there provides the principals with people in the school say, you know, this would work better, then we can accommodate.
So for example, when a school has vision screenings, often your PTA person will send out a sign-up genius. You'll try to get as many parents as you can there. We're not. So is this something where we could reach out as a partner and say, could they come in and, you know what I mean? If we're already doing those
we would love that.
Screenings.
So we're currently assisting. Oh, Skylar's going to correct me.
No, I was going to say we're already doing that with
Okay,
you.
great.
So our students currently, starting the beginning of September, have been helping with the vision screenings.
Okay.
We are doing the health screenings for the employees for the new health insurance program, and we're going to be doing hearing screenings as well. So that is separate and apart from this, but we just wanted, our students are vying for these opportunities to get out there. So those are already happening, and we would welcome any additional.
We currently have about 400 students. We had to sign up for 7 and had almost 150 put in to be one of those 7.
Yeah. When we did the initial vision screening signups, they were filled in about an hour and a half because the students love these opportunities to interact with the community.
Any other questions?
Yes. The limited feedback I've gotten from parents is that they were concerned that these screenings were going to be done without the parent present. They want to be there, and they were concerned that it would be during the day.
that's why we moved it for this first round to the time that we did. We got that feedback and we adjusted the initial plan.
Okay, and then I saw on yours, it said on station 1, you're going to be doing BMI and waist circumference. As a former performing arts medicine professional, that's asking for an eating disorder. So I'm going to say absolutely not. You're not allowed to do waist circumference or BMI, because that's going to be pretty damaging to a student who now has an eating disorder because they were given that measurement.
We will talk to the nursing staff. That was fall under the nursing screening, and we will bring that feedback to them. That's not our medical students. Our medical students do an eyes, ear, nose, throat, heart, and lungs, and then abdomen over the shirt. So we'll give that to that faculty and give them that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Quick question, like outside of us, like, you know, providing like the school and like what is the impact on the district to kind of absorb the administrative work to kind of partner? I'm just curious, yeah, how like our employees are kind of compensated to take on, which is a great project. Am I clear about what I'm asking?
Maybe how much are our employees involved in this?
Yeah, outside of we'll host
have,
at one of our schools
yeah.
and we'll have to administrate, you know.
Our impact's going to be use of the facility and maybe extending the custodial hours and so forth. Again, as Dr. Doherty said here, he's going to essentially lay out the event. He's done this in the past. He's going to have the staff, everything from the welcome them in, sign in, and so forth. So he's going to staff that. But our building, we're going to give that our part of this is to again help advertise and make our building available that night with the custodial support, the safety and security associated with that night. So that's our piece of the partnership. Not necessarily having to have teachers stay all night, or it's very much the staffing of it's going to be run by.
I even make my kids clean up the room afterwards. They stack the chairs and put the tables back.
Thank you for that. All right, any further questions for Dr. Doherty or Skylar or Dr. Wright? Or
thank you so much for your time.
thank you. Okay, item number 10, the construction update. That will be for you, Derek.
Yes, I'm going to need a project on this one. The file was too big to be able to open. What I am going to also do is turn it over to Brandon to, if not.
Alrighty, okay. The construction update, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So on Timpview, since the last update that we had for you last meeting a couple months ago, there's been some significant site work that has been completed over. Back up. No, that's fine. You can go to that image if you want. So if you remember, this exterior was the last bit of the exterior that has now been buttoned up. So it's good to see that the envelope is finally dried in. Go ahead and go to the next slide. It kind of continues along. You'll see the bus loop is finished. And then along the back side, this metal facade is starting to be buttoned up as well as all of this asphalt. Just a lot of the site work, especially in the north part of the site, is now complete. You'll see the concrete here that has the snow melt system in it. It has been installed, so it's great to see that progress.
What's the snow melt?
It's just a heated concrete type thing, so you don't have to plow.
Prevent ice buildup.
Mm-hmm.
So when are TP students going to move into the new building?
That is the question of
the
hour.
Straight to the heart of it.
Too early to give a time at this point.
Okay. There's several elements that are outside of Westland's control, the contractor's control, as well as the district's control, and so some of those things being fire alarm and elevator install. Those are kind of outside of everybody's control. So those are kind of the things that we're trying to balance right now. So, yeah. Okay, the concessions building last month there was just footings. Now there's foundation walls and they're backfilling the ready for the slab. You'll see poke throughs for the plumbing and electrical in there. And yeah, so all that site work has moved from the north down to the south. From the north end of the site, rather, if that makes sense. And go ahead and go to the next slide. This is just kind of reiterating the classroom building, the stage that it's at. I failed to mention on this, let's see, it'd be the northeast side by the seminary building. This pad has been poured now. There was concern there with the ADA, but it turned out really nice and it's compliant and everything.
And that's just wet concrete
That is, yeah.
Okay, it's not.
That was right after the pour. Yeah. You didn't want it painted that color?
Asphalt they walk on.
Yeah. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so also one of the major changes to Tim.
Is that wet concrete right there? I'm pretty sure that's wet concrete.
Yeah, that's what she said.
So, yeah, so I wanted to make sure that's questions asked. Is that what you said?
It is, yeah.
Okay, I just heard the asphalt part, sorry.
And then one of the other major changes to Timpview was we resequenced a lot of the work. Before, the contractor was kind of painting themselves into a corner by working on the first level and then second and then third. And we've since flipped that to start on the third and work our way out. So you'll see, especially in the next few updates, more progress being done on the third floor as we back out of the building. But for this one, this update, all of these are generally in the same spot. The third is actually the least along, if that makes sense, just because we recently put that change in. But you'll see the classrooms are all but complete. This is kind of one of the pod areas and then the hallway. All of the above ceiling work being done. On the second level, here's a picture of the pod and then the classrooms over there, kind of generally the same level of work being done. You'll see this is the learning stair looking down into the commons area, as well as back towards the hallway, back into the classroom building. On the first floor, again, same general idea. You'll see there's actually the district's materials in there now, so that's moved out of the old building and into the new. Ceiling work and classrooms, all but complete. Any questions on Timpview before we move on?
Can you go back one?
Yeah.
I'm sure that this is, they're eventually going to have ceiling tiles in there, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. I didn't know if you were going for
It's
industrial look.
Do we have a projected date for the concessions stadium build?
I'd have to look into that. Maybe Chad, you can pull it up on our schedule.
Okay.
And get that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions on Timpview?
I heard great feedback today that there was a bathroom or something now open, new in the anyway, several students were like really excited. It was clean and new and everything worked, the water ran. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Some positive feedback.
Okay, Wasatch. There has been, on Wasatch, there's been several hundred cubic yards of concrete poured since the last update. So that is great. We're edging closer and closer. We're on schedule to start vertical construction here pretty soon, which is a major milestone that allows us to start other trades and get some of that pressure off of the site work. So it's really good to see this progress going.
Are we basically responsible for the concrete shortage in the state?
You would think. You would
I
think.
think we might be.
CMU and concrete.
Yeah. This is just a drone video. You can play it and then just stop it when it gets to the end of the building. This is going to show. Oh, sorry.
You're okay. It's just.
This is going to show kind of actively the work as they were pouring the slab. You'll see the rebar and all of the underground utilities in there.
So where the vehicles are, that's kind of the drive in front of the school.
Right.
It's only one hallway.
Yes,
Oh,
on the
man,
one.
go down the other side.
nice little like. And this is the ground floor, which doesn't open up to the back, right?
Right.
It's usually a lot narrower compared to the second and third.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is the lowest portion. Yeah. Kind of going back into the kitchen area, and then you'll see the gym.
Ground floor is offices, right? Administration?
Classrooms, and then the front area is offices and some conference rooms. So the first floor will have classrooms.
But no windows?
All they're all
Front
front
side.
faces,
Oh,
though.
Tons of windows. Got to take advantage of that view. Okay, you can go ahead and skip to the next one. There's also another drone video showing
Cool.
the day after the pour.
Who does the drone footage? Is it you guys or is it?
It's the contractor, yeah. They actually lost control when it went into someone's backyard up there a couple months ago. Yeah. Okay, you can jump to the next one. It just turns around real slow. Any questions on Wasatch before we jump over to Shoreline?
Timeline still
Still on track.
on track
Mhm.
for like a mid-year opening or for?
For Wasatch.
Yeah, for Wasatch. For what? For when?
Completion is, I think we reported last time, January. Any other questions?
January 2025?
Yes. I wish it was 2024.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I always bring this up, but the biggest concern I keep getting, I know we talk about is that retaining wall.
Yes.
Do we I know we've recently talked about landscaping will kind of help, kind of beautify the area in front of that big wall in Locust and 820. I mean, I just want to, it'd be nice to be able to have some more concrete things to give to people, because it's so often that I'm getting these concerns that it looks like a prison, just really, so I just want to speak to that again, and I share what I know, but I just don't want it to be like, maybe.
One of the things that we talked about doing was pushing it to the community council to say,
Sure.
would they prefer big trees, redwoods, whatever, that we plant there.
Wow. Do you know how big those are?
They're gonna
Or, we gotta cover the wall somehow. Or do we wanna do, a mural, right?
Okay.
So that was something we talked about doing.
Sure, and I guess I have shared those things. It just is very constant. And I think the piece too is, and I don't know if we could have been better at communicating what this was going to look like, but very much like we didn't know this is what was coming. So.
I have a question. When you're asking community council to come up with some brainstorming, is there a way we could lead out with, and maybe this is really expensive, I'm sure it is, but a couple pictures of the options? Because when it's me, even in home improvement, I'm like, show me what that would look like. Paint half the wall and hold the thing up while I look at it. I mean, so I'm just saying, could there be a couple just images, even something kind of like this, or would you like something more like that? Just because I just think it's hard to picture, right? And so now they've got one image, and it's this wall with nothing. So maybe giving them a couple of suggested possible directions visually would help that conversation. Or maybe they can brainstorm some ideas, and then we can make up some mock-up pictures that then they can be like, oh, that idea is better than that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great feedback. Yeah.
And just piggybacking on that,
Mm-hmm.
is there going to be some type of fencing or not? I don't want to keep saying that if there is no type of fencing. There will be, right?
There will be fencing.
Just around the perimeter, basically?
It will be at the top of, from what I'm remembering, at the top of every level as it steps up.
And that's what I've...
And it will also block from one level to the next level, one level to the next level, to prevent people from essentially being able to go either in between the levels, to stand in between them, look up and down, or to be brought and climb up.
So is that like the architect rendered?
Yes,
I was going to say,
architect.
that might also be great to have a picture of.
And this is something the architect did do, so we can easily
So
get
if we
a
could see
copy
it,
of that.
that would be great, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, shoreline. This is showcasing, this is amazing. I mean, we don't even have a roof on, and all the mechanical is already in place. You'll see in this auditorium, some of the major mechanical is being staged, as well as the deck is being shored up right now. So some, again, major activities happening at Shoreline. This is the gym area. Since the last update, the roof drains have been tied in, the roof has been sealed off, and the HVAC has been completed in those areas. This is showing the upper level, so that deck has been poured, and you'll see the poke-throughs for the mechanical and electrical. Next, they'll be setting these metal doors and framing will go in. This is also showing the storage shed in the back that's completed, other than the roof.
That's my favorite picture.
The little shed.
Yeah. I want one of those.
So that is pretty much it on Shoreline. Are there any questions on that?
Still on schedule?
Yes.
I'm sure this is on, I don't know, someone's radar, but whenever it's possible for us to get a tour of Shoreline, I would love to be able to get on site and see it in person.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's safe to do that or when it's the right time for that, but I would love to be able to.
So if we want, how, do you want to see it during construction or more as it's completed? Because this building will be completed, my guess is long before school is ready to start next year, and so we will have ample time to go through this building.
Oh, you just jinxed it.
I know.
Why would you say that? Please. Oh.
So long as everything holds. But there will be ample time to see the finished product. If we wanted to walk through the construction, we can do that at any time. I did it just with him the other day.
Anybody have a preference on that? I'm interested in seeing it. I mean, but whatever. I don't know.
Can we
do if anybody wants to
I know, I love to see it
Is
during
it the hard
construction,
hat?
but I also, I know.
Yeah, you get to have a hard hat on.
The next time that we do it, because we do it once a month, the next time I go and do it, I can always send out the invite to say, hey, this is when we're going to walk through.
I would love to come if that's an option, if that's okay to have us.
All right, any other questions for our construction team?
Real quick, jumping back to Tim Few. So the concessions building on their schedule is completing in April.
April.
I can't remember who asked that question.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go over large purchase requests with Derek Anderson now.
All right, so what you have before you, let me get this disconnected and switch back over. It is, I remember, I have a teaching and learning request, and it's for software. And I cannot really exactly remember what software this was. Alexia, bingo. So this is going to be essentially our software usage across the district. This is not anything new, but this is covered with state funds, and the total cost is $183,400.
Questions for Derek on the Lexia software?
What do we use Lexia for?
Early intervention for K-3 reading program.
Reading for that.
Okay.
Did we have any community members or parents come in when it was available to be previewed?
We had just one come in. They gave us some feedback on user interface, and that was all. We did have a good contingent of teachers give us feedback, and 93% of those teachers indicated that Lexia was the preferred product to continue on from last year. So we're comfortable with that choice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I just have a question looking at the invoice here. So obviously it looks like there's 13 units for each of our elementary schools, the main package, but just curious what the other bronze package is, the one.
Yeah, they offer a robust professional learning and just monthly check-in, so we can see our data and follow up on usage and make sure that the money that state is expending is actually making a difference for our kids. So they do a very good job of follow-up with them.
So it's support.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
And we effectively got, under the state grant, free licenses for our 4th through 6th grade students covered by the allotment that the state gave us. So this is going to be a K-6 software, which is a really nice option.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Is there research that can be found in ERIC to prove that Lexia is good?
Lexia was one of the options presented to us last year as one of the research-based products that we could choose from. That option was lifted this year, but we chose to stick with that trend of wanting a research-backed product. So yes, whether it's available, and Eric, I would have to follow up on Anne Marie, we don't really know.
Yeah, Eric has been a department might say defunded, less funded, and so we don't see everything that we used to get through that clearinghouse. But the state, again, this is a state program. This is the first year they're giving the money to the districts to pay for it. They've just always done it before. And one of their requirements was a research base. So there's a research base that certainly locate should you want it, but the state is the vetter of that, has been for it.
So if Eric's not a good database anymore, then where do you go?
Lots of places.
Why?
There's a major one called the What's Work Clearinghouse, and it's whatworks.gov. There are, again, one person's definition of what is research-based versus research-supportive versus there is evidence to say approach works versus a program. So we're looking at studies, we're looking at meta-analyses from universities and other vendors. The state's definition of their criteria were pretty clear, and again, if you're interested in that EIME software, or I get that mixed with EIME for BYU. Early Intervention Software Program, EISP program criteria, we can certainly find that for you, and or people can find it through the state. Yes.
Okay.
Curious, so the state pays for it, is all of that cost covered by the state funding for it specifically, or if we had to come up with money from other budgets?
All of the funding is provided by the state. It's a grant program, non-competitive. We just have to submit our children.
And then they pay for whatever.
Yeah, they'll reimburse us for the
Great.
I can send you the link for the What's Work Clearinghouse that has the evidence-based reviews. There's 3 reviews of it.
Cool.
Any other questions regarding the Lexia software? All right, in the interest of time, we are going to table items 12 and 13 for now. If miraculously we come up with extra time before this meeting's over, we may come back to them. If not, we'll add them to a future agenda. But we're going to go ahead and move forward to item 14 with the policy review with Wendy.
Okay. I would like to excuse Jason Cox. He's supposed to be here to talk about some of the personnel policies that are listed, but he has back issues, so he asked to be excused. And so he has allowed me to do this, so let's hope I don't screw it up. So here we go. So the first one, this is all part of the negotiated, most of these are part of the negotiated agreement. First one is policy 5330, which adds Juneteenth as one of the holidays that the district will observe officially, and it is listed as June 19th on there, so you can see that. And then policy 5400 is dealing with employee leave, where we are establishing that the types of medical leave that are available to employees, medical, vacation, paid time off, hourly paid leave. And it also is identifying a high impact day. It's adding Thanksgiving break as those days right before Thanksgiving as being high impact days. That people need to be careful about taking time off because we don't have access to substitutes. So that's the change to policy 5400. And then procedure 7 is just about that procedure on high impact days, and it's adding the Thanksgiving break in there so that that's consistent across those policies. And then with 5400 procedure 10, it makes a couple of changes to vacation. It talks about vacation requests instead of it requiring approval of the deputy superintendent, because it might not always be the human resources director as well. It just establishes that as the human resources director. We also changed 12-month administrators and professional technical employees. Instead of earning 13.36 hours per month, we took that to around 14 hours per month. And then eligible ESP employees earn vacation at the following rates, so it changed those rates there. And these have all been approved by the respective associations. So this was all incorporated into the negotiated contract. We just need to make sure that our policies are reflecting those changes in the negotiated agreement. then the next policy is about special education. I'm gonna let Suraj, do you wanna talk about it? We had to make some adjustments to our actual policy, which is 4160, to be in compliance with the state. He's done a really good job of going through and making sure that verbiage is aligning with that. And then the very long document that you saw attached is the state's official document that has to be our procedure. We've had a different procedure in place. We've had this other document on our special ed website. It just wasn't lining up with the actual policy and procedure. So we just want to make sure everything's aligning with what the state is requiring. So is there anything you wanted to add there?
Not really. Well, maybe just one thing, and that is, you know, what's really great about this is this was an opportunity for us to make it all aligned.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we had it kind of, anyway, it was weird. It all aligns now. So. Any questions about that?
Okay.
Great. I did that fast.
You're welcome.
Good job.
That was awesome.
I think we're almost on track.
Yeah, we're supposed to start number 15 at 6:25, and it's 6:24. Wow.
Okay, here we go.
All right, the University of Utah Memo of Understanding.
Okay, so I just wanted to make you aware that we have formulated we have formalized an MOU with the University of Utah. Other districts, Granite District and Canyons District has already done this, and they have asked that Provo City School District be part of it. What it basically does is it has us turn over the names and addresses, so public directory information only. They send a letter to all freshmen just stating, by the way, we would love to have you as a student to the University of Utah. Here are our course requirements. That will be sent out as they're registering for classes their 10th grade year, because the University of Utah has sometimes more stringent requirements in terms of they have to take a world language and they have to take 3 years of a lab science and different things like that. So they'll send those out, and then they'll start asking us to track the GPAs of students. By the time that these students are juniors, if they have a 3.5 GPA and they have met those course requirements, they will be sending a letter to those students indicating that they would likely be eligible to just be admitted outright to the University of Utah. By the time they're a senior, the district just certifies, sends them a letter, says these are the students that have met the GPA requirement, these are the students that have met the course requirements. Those students are automatically admitted into the University of Utah. They do not have to pay an application fee, they do not have to fill out an application, there's nothing required. And then they're working, ACT? Nothing, nope. Then they're, then they're asking for an additional piece that they're working through. This hasn't quite been vetted as of yet, but as soon as they get the logistics of this worked out, then there should be a scholarship that is also attached to that for the students that have a 3.8 GPA or higher, and then we would just send them a list, and those students automatically would get a scholarship to the University of Utah. So the purpose of this is to really break down those barriers, especially for first generation students, where filling out an application can be very intimidating, and just making it automatic. Secondly, if a student is admitted into the University of Utah, they will automatically qualify for admission into any public Utah-based university. So if a student wants to go to like Utah State, then they don't have to say, well, I wonder if I would get admitted. If they've already received this letter from the University of Utah, they can fill out the application for Utah State. They would get into Utah State because the University of Utah has the most stringent requirements. So we feel like this would be a really great opportunity for our students. Anything we can do to build relationships with higher ed is going to be right. Questions? Yes?
Did you say there's a scholarship involved?
There will be once they get that going. So we're rolling it out with our freshmen to start. So.
What would be the amount of that scholarship?
They have not identified
Okay.
that as of yet. My guess is it's going to be a 1 year, and then you would have to renew it. Probably it's not going to be like a presidential scholarship per se.
So it says here it's a 4-year pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean it's only this year's freshmen
and then we add next year's freshmen and then sophomores, and then we do freshmen, sophomores, juniors.
So even if they decide to continue at least the next 4 classes, would see it all the way through?
Yes, absolutely.
So it would really get like 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we send out like directory level info? Is that available in general to all colleges who want to recruit from high schools in Utah?
It is not technically just directory information, a parent has to opt out of that information being shared. So directory information is not protected under FERPA. So if the parent has opted out, then we would not send that student's name. So that would be something that we definitely want to let parents know, because their student could be excluded from that if they're not allowing us to share that information. That's a great question. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Are there any types of programs like this, like that are similar to this, that have like been used in the past, or like that we have any knowledge of that like have been successful? Like, do we know like what's like the success rate of these things? Like how many students like actually take advantage of it?
That's a great question.
Cheryl
John.
looks like he knows the answer.
Well, so tell them about, because we did have a similar program in Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, well, you want to talk about that or the valedictorian program?
Tell us about the valedictorian.
So the valedictorian program, regardless of how many valedictorians a school identifies as a valedictorian, they give them a scholarship, and it's $8,000 a year for 4 years. So basically, we called them out and said, so if we drill down to 1, that's 32,000, but if we have 10, it's 320,000. They said, we'll take all 10. So we identified last year, my former high school, we identified 42 valedictorians.
They did all have 4.0
They all have
GPAs.
4.0s.
No, that happens.
And that's the only requirement.
And I was dumb, and I still did the traditional valedictorian, and he told me after the fact, which was...
So, yes, successful. Now, some of those students, though, as Superintendent mentioned a minute ago, some of those students are going to get the presidential anyway, which is 12, I think, right? So, but yeah, very successful. They came through for us, and we started the 9th grade pilot, right? 2 years ago, and I see no issues with it. It's been very successful.
It also has an impact too, because what ends up happening is we see students getting into their junior and senior year, and then they're like, well, I haven't taken the classes. So now I've got to either do this online. So the idea is to notify them ahead of time, so that as they're planning their schedule, they're understanding that you're limiting options, and then that letter also being shared with parents, so that parents are looking at this going, I need to be challenging my kid. Like sometimes, you know, trying to ease them away from those harder classes is not always in their best interest. Jennifer?
I don't know, the capacity would be to get this done within this year, but I would love at some point if we could include with that letter some document that we have created that kind of outlines, well, if you're going to follow this program and be in the U, you're also on track for these pathways, or what concurrent enrollment are you taking, or some of the other programs. There's so many options we have, and it's just paralyzing as a parent. Where do we go? What do we do? Do we take AP, concurrent enrollment, CTE pathway? And I'm sure there's a way you can kind of do multiple at the same time. So if there's a way we can make that clear, that would be without having to go in and talk to the one person at the school who knows it. Like, we're going to provide it to everybody, right, with that information.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I just tasked Clay and Daryl to create that today. Perfect. I was giving them all sorts of tasks today. It was a good day.
Sorry, two things. Jennifer, with what you're saying, I think we can definitely tie that into the Opportunity Scholarship, which was previous, what was it?
Regents.
Yeah, which, I mean, I know that Tim Fuse counselors are very good about drilling that into students very early on. But like,
of that one.
yeah, but
So maybe not.
Well, there was a transition between Regents and Opportunity.
Yeah.
There's
some
both of my
communication
kids both did not get that because of communication breakdown. They told him as a freshman that they were not allowed to do it because it was going more to an opportunity fund, or and then all of a sudden it came back and nobody told my kid to fill out for it, so he missed out on it. So that was my one son, and then my other son's opportunity was computer science did not fit the science criteria, so he did not get the scholarship because computer science does not fit that criteria.
Well, at least this year.
I think they've sorted it. Yeah, they have sorted, but there were
there's
some
definitely
things changed.
Like I've been handed a list of all the classes that would be eligible for that. But also, so what is this memorandum like replacing anything? Did we have a previous agreement with them? Any other program similar to this? Just okay.
It's a new thing, and they just decided I think the reason, to be honest, they reached out is because they negotiated the agreement with them in Canyons, and they're like, hey, would you like to be part of this? And I was like, sign me up, let's go. Here we are.
And this is a great opportunity. Okay. Any further questions on the MOU? Okay, then let's move on to the strategic plan.
So Rebecca and I met with the Aurora is going to be our main person that's going to handle the strategic plan. I now have a packet that I received today from her that has kind of a layout of what the meetings and everything will look like. I will forward that. I apologize, we just didn't get it in time to put it on board docs. A couple of things that we have told them is that we want the strategic plan completed by April 16th so that we can do an official adoption by then. So they're going to backwards design it from there. They do need us to put together basically a steering committee that would have approximately 20 to 25 members on it. And then they had some recommendations on who those individuals should be. They really were emphasizing, since we are located and have partnerships with BYU and UVU, we probably need to have a representative from each of those institutions. And I didn't know how you wanted to proceed with selecting those individuals. We want to have, this isn't the only opportunity for our stakeholders to engage with this process, so I want us to be aware of that. That there will be additional focus groups and surveys so that other individuals can do this work. But there will be at least 6 meetings wherein these individuals have to be able to commit anywhere from 90 minutes to 3 hours to be part of this process. So you can't have different people coming each time. It has to be an individual, and once we decide on those dates of when those meetings are, they would have to commit to that. And they provided us with a letter or an email that we can send out, and then when they're signing off, they're signing that they're committing to that. The other piece of this is how involved is the board. We don't want to have, well, we would love to have all 7 of you as part of this, but then it becomes an official board meeting, right, every time that happens. So there were a couple of ideas, but their recommendation was that we assign 2 board members to sit on the planning committee, and then that in my weekly board updates, then anytime we meet, then I would forward that information out, and we would dedicate some time in every board meeting for those 2 board members to report. They will also come in and do 3 work sessions with our board and our cabinet to kind of go through to set mission and vision and kind of our tenets. And so that we would still be involved in really kind of the foundation of what this plan is, and then there would be 2 additional times where we would be updated in that process. So I didn't know how you wanted to proceed. I'm happy to help with getting out all of the materials and sending out letters and all of those things, but you had mentioned about how each board member had been able to select a few people for the superintendent search piece. I didn't know if you wanted to use that.
So that was the one piece of experience I feel like we have, is that when we did our citizens committee for the superintendent search, the process we used was we each got our 2 invitations, and then Jennifer and I filled in the blanks from there. We did also ask the community, like, if you want to be on this, send us some info about why and why you qualify, and then we also, so we went through a lot of those volunteers basically, and filled in the gaps. That's how we did it last time. It doesn't have to be done the same way. This committee, you're saying we need 25 people?
I think that's
so
what
it's
the number
smaller,
was.
so if we still felt like we wanted, each of us to have like an invitation, maybe it makes more sense for us each to do 1 this time, since it's a smaller committee. If we feel like we want an invitation, or do we want to turn it over to Cabinet and Wendy to just go out through principals? Thoughts?
When do they need us to have that info turned into?
Pretty soon if we
So
want to get
before
going.
our
So they want to do a meeting in October, November, December, so they want to have these 6 meetings so that they'll all happen prior to April. So we need our first meeting to be in October, so this needs to be a quicker turnaround. And it says 25 to 30 members. So, yeah.
Okay, last time we had 35.
Something that we could send out as part of an email to the entire district and say, if you're interested, why? It doesn't mean they're going to be chosen, but I mean, they would know, like, here's the dates you would need to set aside.
time commitment.
Which schools?
We have that info, right?
Yeah, which schools?
We already have dates and times and everything.
They have not put together the dates and times as of yet.
But we know what the commitment would be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk a minute about who we want to have in the room for that committee? Like, are we picturing students, parents, teachers? Are we picturing civic leaders? Remember they mentioned, like, you know,
They did mention
civic
civic
leaders,
leaders.
business leaders in your community, faith-based leaders. Like, do you know, like, let's just maybe, I'd love to hear from people what you think the makeup of that committee optimally is to define.
Well, they gave you
So
an
they already
optimal
gave
committee,
a
right?
list of what
Oh,
they
they did.
feel like should be on it, and when we went to when we were in the Zoom meeting, what they described sounded exactly like what we had on our citizens committee, or what we were seeking after in our citizens
Okay.
committee. So remember we had someone from city council, and we had, you know, we
Yeah.
tried
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get a really diverse group. Sounded like it was very similar, same idea, but what do you know?
So this is what it says. It says, the president or their designee from local community association. So they were talking about like Chamber of Commerce, for example. Select members of the superintendent's cabinet, representation from the offices of academics, operations, talent management, family and community engagement, principals and teachers from different areas at different levels, students, one from each level, ensuring even representation of grade levels. So it doesn't mean a student from every grade level, but just you have an elementary, then you also have a secondary, or you have elementary, middle, and high.
You're gonna have elementary student attending 90-minute meeting?
I would say no personally, but maybe
Yeah,
a
that-
sixth
I could just
grader.
bring my sister or something.
That feels like a lot for
Your
a
color.
younger child, but yeah.
Here's a coloring book. Parents, one from each area. They're talking about from each of your precincts. The president of the city's parent-teacher organization, and then the president of the teachers union and university representation, key mayor, staff, philanthropic leaders.
We're like over 35 by now.
This is just a sampling of who these people could
So
be.
it's very similar to what we tried
Yeah.
to do, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
does the board feel like we want to each have an invitation, and then we can like leave it to Wendy and cabinet to fill in the blanks? Do we want to just turn it over to them and let them get going? Preference? Anybody have a preference?
I think people who were on the committee, previous citizens committee, they don't need to be on this new one.
So you mean for the
New
superintendent?
people for the superintendent.
So have different voices,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
New
Okay.
people.
Okay.
I'm fine either way. It would be great to have one, but I also trust that turning it over to cabinet, that there will be some representation, if that's the best way to do it, because I hear all the things, and I know we're not gonna get everybody on there, but that's a lot of people that would need to be, this is like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to do the other way, but if it's a puzzle, we've gotta figure out how do we put the puzzle together. I feel like we don't have all the pieces.
Yeah. Jennifer?
What if each board member could give 1 to 2 suggestions to go in the list of, like, as we have to figure out the puzzle, who are we considering? And then we have to figure out, you know, which of the categories we're making sure we have covered, but at least we're helping in the brainstorming process as well. We might know different people than cabinet does, but obviously they know people we don't and things like that, so I think maybe we can help brainstorm.
I actually think it might be even helpful if each of you came up with 3 to 4 names and you listed if they have students and what schools, like what ages they are, so that we can make sure, like, we have a parent who has students at elementary, middle, and high school.
That's what
Like
we did last time.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, and then we can kind of go through, and then if they're also like, I know this person's a BYU professor, or I know this person works at UVU, or if you know other information, I could create a Google Doc and just share it with you. You could put in your list of names, their contact information, and any notes about them, and then we could review that as a cabinet. And before we decide on any of the final things, we just bring it back to you so you could look at it and see. Or that way, then you have 3 or 4, so if one of them ends up dropping out or can't do it, then we can replace them with one of the other suggestions that's on there. And kind of almost have alternates.
We also have plenty of people who wanted to be on the citizens committee for the superintendent search that didn't make it on, and there was so many wonderful qualified people there too. So we could even reach back
I was
into
gonna
that
ask
list.
if we could,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in
Let's
my computer
resurrect that
somewhere,
list. Yeah.
but I'd like to see it.
The superintendent.
It's
probably on
In our shared.
It's still, yeah, we
Google
still have it. So
Yeah.
that's a good resource as well, I think.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so 4 names. with
That's
info
what-
about
give us a
each
deadline.
person? Okay, and the deadline on that?
I would like the deadline to be, ooh, I like how I have this kind of like, ooh, very exciting. How about by the 22nd of September?
Yes, that sounds great. Bonnie, can you send us out like a group email, a reminder in the next couple of days, and then one right before it's due, or so? Yep. That works, okay. Okay, and then as far as putting board members on the steering committee, you're saying they recommend two?
They recommended two, and we had kind of talked about, you know, we have kind of a Timpview basically feeder pattern, and we have a Provo High feeder pattern, so you have a board member from each of those feeder patterns to make sure that both parts of the district are well represented, so.
And remind us of that time commitment. What is the time commitment for the steering committee? Once a month for each month until April?
Okay. For approximately 3 hours, and I'm guessing to get all of these parents and things, these are going to have to be evening meetings.
Okay. So, I mean, do we want to draw straws? Do we want to duke it out?
Is there anyone who has special, like,
interest or whatever? I mean, I'm happy to do it. I think everyone's interested. I think every last one of us is interested, right?
Everybody's.
So that's why I said, do we want it to straws? Like, I don't. We need a west side and we need the east side.
Honestly, I'd have to see the schedule before I could even commit to it. So maybe when we see this, unless anyone really wants to say now, I'd need to see the schedule because there's just gonna be some I may not be able to do. And if everybody else is committing for 6, we need to commit for 6.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay.
Maybe we could also email you our interest level on a scale 1 to 10.
Everyone's going to be a 10.
I don't know.
Anyone.
And we still have the opportunity to work together on those other work sessions.
Right. So no, you're not
yeah.
excluded.
You're
There's
not
still
excluded.
other work sessions too. Right. So. Okay,
I'm guessing because board meetings are on Tuesdays, I'm guessing we could, if Tuesdays are a good day because you generally keep that clear, we could do that on the off Tuesday. And so then it just stays consistent that it's always Tuesday, and that might maybe be the easiest for people because it's like, well, I'm just committing that for the next 6 months, you know, every Tuesday I'm occupied.
Once a month, right?
Yes. Yeah, so you'd have board meeting the 2nd, and then you do this the 3rd, and then board meeting the 4th, something like that. Or that would give us enough time, I think. Or we could even do it, I'm even wondering if they're going to want to do it like the first Tuesday, just because once you hit Thanksgiving, then you're hitting into Thanksgiving and Christmas, hitting those holidays, so.
They did mention we could exclude December
Yes,
if we
you
needed
could.
to, or something like that, so. Okay, well, yeah, maybe we need to see the schedule and see if we can, who's actually.
I think we can kind of dictate that schedule a little bit. So if there are days that work better, if you'll tell me that, maybe you can send me an email and let me know if there are days that work better in the evenings for you, then that would help as I'm trying to schedule that with them. And if most days work except one, just say any day work. We don't want to do Fridays. Like, I don't think that's good. So please no. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Alright, I'm still making my note here. Okay. Any questions? Any further questions for Wendy about the strategic plan update? Okay, let's move on to item number 17. Let's see how on time we are. Ooh, we are 12 minutes behind.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's just how it works. Okay, so that is for, let's see, Daryl.
Yeah, just to share graduation dates and times with you. These have been confirmed by the schools. May 20th will be Timpview High School at 6 p.m. at UVU. May 22nd.
What day of the week is that?
Monday. That's a Monday. And then Wednesday, May 22nd, 6 p.m. UVU Provo High.
Sorry, you said 6 p.m. for Timpview as well? Okay.
And then Thursday, the 23rd is 7 p.m. and that will be Independence High School, and that's over at Independence High School. And then just a reminder, I'm sure this is already in your calendar, but October 4th will be the fall graduation this year at Independence High, and that's at 5 p.m. And we don't have the 2024 fall graduation yet. That will be announced later.
So is the
Anybody?
fall graduation in their gym or outside or?
I don't know where that's traditionally been, that's a great
It's been
question.
in the
I
auditorium.
think it's been inside before.
And it's at.
It's an independence.
Is that independent this year?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember who's speaking at that one? Gina, you're on it. Okay, awesome.
I'm gonna have Terry write my speech. She is good.
Okay, great.
I'll tell you, you can use that chat.
Chat
GPT. You write your graduation
Yep.
speech as well.
There's that,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Mhm.
All right. Consent calendar review and questions. We have 12 minutes until we need to get over to our other meeting. Just kind of keep time frame in mind. But any questions on consent calendar?
And you.
Okay.
Why did Tempe buy a van?
So to bring parity to both the other schools. So this is something that's been in the works for a very long time. The vans were purchased at both at Provo High and at Independence High last year, so that way they could transport their kids to activities and things like that. The Tent View one is essentially completing that and making it parity. And the reason why it's now hitting this year and not last year is because of the vehicles that they were trying to pick up were just not ones that would bring parity. And so finally, these were the ones that were settled on as that would work. I can't feel the feet and fingers.
My other question is actually to the rest of the board. We changed the formatting. What do you guys think? Or do you have of all the financial?
So the ones that are in here are the ones that are required by law, and that is it. There's all the extra has been taken out, so what you see is just what is required by law.
If you don't have an opinion right now, just let the financial committee know if you would like something changed.
So it's like less to go through.
And I had a really helpful tutorial with Derek about Domo. So you all, like, if you're interested, it can show you how you still have access to all of the data anytime, any way you want to sort that. That isn't present here, but was before. If you want to look through it all.
Any other questions on consent calendar? Nope. Okay, awesome. Our last item is just the Google upcoming calendar items. I just lost my place on my agenda. Where is it? I think just some noteworthy things real quick. Just remember a joint meeting with City Council on September 26th. Our all-day study session, work meeting, whatever we're calling it, 29th. So those two are in the same week.
And the USDA regional meeting that week too.
And the USDA regional meeting. That's going to be a...
It is? Wait.
All of us.
That's Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, Wednesday night.
So that's the same day as the...
If you can't make it that night,
No.
you have other days.
Okay.
They're all different days.
Oh,
yeah,
Tuesday,
I saw
Wednesday,
that.
Friday.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
So that's gonna be a long, kind of a long week. Keep those ones in
Get
mind.
to see each other a lot.
Our graduation on October 4th, which you just said, and then upcoming board meetings, the 10th in October. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn our study session?
I move that we adjourn our study session.
Okay, we are adjourned, and we are supposed to reconvene in 9 minutes.
So sorry.
That was Lisa.
You're not meeting on the 4th?
I know it all.
I was so
Alright,
excited
so
about it.
October 4th.
I'll give you a shout out.
That's
Like, hey, tune in.